we go, it's here. Winter Wishes is upon us. Let's dive straight in and have a look because we've got over 85 elements included. Now we can see from the colour, the design, we've got that autumn feel, that fall feel. You've got the pumpkins, the jack-o'-lanterns, but then what we've got is all of these crafty elements inside. Now what we have got is we've got our little sleigh and our mitten, so we've got our 2 die sets, so we can really start to build up that scene. We've then got Stay Cozy, which is a lovely sentiment die. Now within this one, you've got the die that does say cozy, but then you've got all these little sentiments as well. If I bring in this little piece here, you're going to see comfy and cozy. Let's get cozy. We've got warm and cozy. We've got cozy nights, and then we've got stay cozy. Think of the fun sentiments that you can create when it comes to that set there. We're then giving you a 4x6 emboss and folder. Now this is giving you that sort of plaid tartan feel that you can start to do all your inking. That's in there. We're giving you a couple of your stencils as well. It's like that knitwear of the cozy jumper, but then we're giving you the wood grain effect as well. So if you want to go in with your water reactives, your pigments, really make them stand out on your cards and projects, you can do that. What we have also got is we've got our tree dies. Now we've got little embossed detail within the silhouette of the trees, so we've got our 2 different sizes. Then out the whole lot, probably one of my favourites and most versatile is the winter foliage. You've got exactly that. All these dies, 5 of these, creating that winter foliage feel. So if you go with the browns, the oranges, the reds, really enhancing your cards and your projects. We're then going to be giving you the home for Christmas. Now this is where you can start to set that scene within this truck here. So you can have some of the trees, maybe some of the pumpkins that you're going to see just shortly, but you've got all that embossed detail as well. So you've got your home for Christmas. We're then giving you light up. Now with this one, this is a stamp and a die. So you can then come along and create the aperture of just that lantern. But then what you've also got is you've got your stamp as well. So if you use them both together, stamp and die cut, maybe go in with some of the highlights, really make that light stand out and glow. So you've got your 2 sets there. But we've got then beautiful fireplace. Within this fireplace here, you've got the scenes already created. So you've got your outline die, you've then got your stocking, a few stars, you've also then got your little bow as well. But this is when it really comes to life. Look at that fireplace, the fire, the wood, you've got the surrounding, the brickwork, but of course if you use it with the die, it's then going to cut out. We're then going to be giving you these pumpkins, these jack-o'-lanterns, but you've also as well got the wheelbarrow, 2, pumpkin patch. You've got the stamp and the dies that you can see here. So if we then bring in our little piece, maybe you want to start to build the pumpkins on top. Maybe you just want to use the dies as a silhouette, as kind of an aperture. You can do that. But this is all about setting that scene for the winter wishes. What we're then going to give you is loads of sentiments, but also loads of icons as well. So if you want to go in with thankful and bless, sending you warm wishes, you can do that. Maybe hello fall, best Thanksgiving wishes, you can do that. Gingerbread man, you've then got your hot chocolate, the stag or the deer or the reindeer, and this curvature within that foliage in the corner. That's all included as well. Then we're going to go in to our cardstock. We've then got our linen cardstock, 8x8 in size. What we have got as well is we've got our 3 gorgeous winter wishes colour. We've got the deep greens, the oranges, the rubies as well. Beautiful texture with that linen. You can then tear them if you want to, distress them, but you've got all of them included. Then we're going to be going in to the most beautiful double-sided papers. Now within these ones here, you've got 24 of them. With them being double-sided, you've got a lot of the plaid feel, that tartan feel. Then you've got the scenes with the pumpkins, the foliage, you've got the white snow coming through, the berries are coming through, the woodwork with your then little sleigh as well. All of that beautifully encapsulated within that 12 by 12. Maybe come along with your glossy highlights, maybe come along with your glitter glues. Really pull out some of that detail, the poinsettias, the little star there as well. Creating depth, creating detail when it comes to that full set there. All of that comes to a combine of over 85 elements, all comes combined within the beautifully packaged collection within that box as well. It's from Crafter's Companion, it's from, of course, our Winter Wishes collection. And if you want to see how you can make a really fun, beautiful scene building card like this is what you're going to need. Now with our Winter Wishes collection, many different cards and projects and styles that you can make. But what about making this really fun Z-fold card? So we are setting the scene, we've even popped the trees in the back of the trunk there, having a little bit of fun. So what we're going to do to start with is let's bring in a piece of our cardstock. So we're going to come in with our cardstock and we're going to be using the Home for Christmas, this lovely little trunk die. So what I'm going to do within this one is I'm going to use my white multi-purpose. You can use your Neenah cardstock because we're going to be doing our alcohol colouring. However, I want to have that little bit of strength and structure. So therefore, I'm going to go in with my white multi-purpose, using a little bit of my low tack tape just to tack that down, and then we're going to go in with our plates. Now for this one, we're going to go in with our base plate, frosted, magnetic, top plate. Now what we are going to do afterwards is we are going to be using our rubber embossing mat, because when it comes to that die, you've got these little indentation embossed details or debossed details. So we want to push that out when it comes to the embossing mat. Now, many people sometimes say, oh, I get confused about the layer when it comes to embossing. So what I like to do, I've got my plates exactly as they were, so I like to turn it over on itself. I just take that top plate away. I'm going to pop my embossing mat over the top. I'm going to pop my plate back, and then I'm just going to flip that around, and then I'm going to take out my magnetic shim. For me, that's just a nice way to remember how to do the layers, because you never ever have your magnetic shim and your embossing mat in at the same time. Too much pressure and you will ruin your embossing mat. So as long as you take out the magnetic shim, but just as a visual, it's a nice visual for myself as to how I remember to take them out. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take that out of place, and then we'll start to see that we've got embossed detail. Now with our embossing mat, that's of course doing all the work. But then what you can start to do is if you want to come along and you want to enhance that so you can see the embossed detail here. But what about enhancing it a little bit more? Go in with just a ball tool or embossing tool and push in where you've already got that embossed detail. You're just enhancing it that little bit more. But what we're also going to be doing is these are going to act as like little guidelines, because we're going to be doing some of our alcohol colouring, but of course we don't have a stamp line to follow. So the embossed line that the embossing mat gives you will be more than adequate enough to follow around, but it's nice just to go in and enhance that just a little bit more with your embossing tool. We're then just going to pop that one out, and then what we've then got is we've got a super refined embossed detail trunk that you can start to build on the back of. So now at this point, what we're going to do is I'm going to come in with a little bit of scrap cardstock, and I'm going to go in. What we'll do is we'll do it on a bit of black, because it means that you can see it a bit better with it being white. And of course, the main thing is I've got a little bit of card underneath for my alcohol to then, of course, capture should it start to bleed through. So I'm going to go with the dark red blend. I'm going to go in with the brown grey blend. So these are from our tri-blends, our original tri-blends, as I would say. So we've got our bullet nib. And then what I'm going to do in just a tiny little bit of ice grey blend. So I'm just going to use my tri-blend brush, You can absolutely use your original tri-blends if you want, but if you've got the mediums, it's nice just to mix and match sometimes. And then what we're going to do here, if you've never coloured an embossed line image, take it sections by sections. Just imagine that it's just a stamp, and we're going to go section by section. So I'm going to go in with my red, so my dark red blend, and then let's just start at the base here of the trunk. So we're going to go in, and then I'm just going to infill with the light tone. So I'm going to go in with the light tone of the red. We're then going to start with where I would want it to be, of course, dark. I'm going to lay down that initial colour. We're going to go around the wheels and follow in that embossed detail. Don't worry about covering it, because we're going to enhance it just shortly with the deep tone. What we're then going to do is, once again, we're just going to follow that outer edge with the deep tone of the dark red. So we're just going to come, add that highlight of that dark tone. We're just then going to go in circular motions to blend it out. What we're then going to do is go into the mid-tone of the red. So we'll go into the mid-tone, and we're just going to blend that out as well. And we're going to follow the direction of that wheel that's underneath. So we're just going to then do a little bit of blending to blend that out, and then we're going to finish off again with that light tone. What I'm then going to do is I'm just going to go back in to that dark tone of the red, and then I'm just going to work my way along that embossed detail line, just enhancing it just that tiny, tiny little bit. And then what we can do is we can move on to the next section. So the next section, we're just going to go along, and then I'm going to turn it this way because it's easier for myself to colour. We're going to lay down that light tone to start with. So I'm just going to work my way all the way down the side, sections by sections. And if you go over into that next section, don't worry, because of course we're then going to come along and blend that individual section afterwards. Keeping a little bit of my light source for the moment, and then we're going to go back into the dark tone. So we're just going to work that in with the dark tone of the red. And this is optional. You might want to just come along and then cut this die into a piece of the linen card, or you might want to come along and just use one tone of the red. You don't have to use the 3-tone blend. Blend that out, and then we're just going to come along, and then we're just going to blend that last bit out into place here. So starting off with the left, we're going to continue all the way along. So for this one, we're then going to go into the door and that outer frame. So work our way in, working within the embossed detail. We've got some embossed detail there with the ridge of the door as well as the handle, but we're just going to colour straight over the top, because of course that dark tone is what's going to enhance it. So we're just going to go into here, really start to lay down that light tone. And notice I'm not being precise down the side. At the moment it looks a little bit messy. Don't worry, because that outer casing of the door, that's a separate component. So we'll colour that in a moment. So this one, we're going to go in with the dark tone down the left-hand side. What we're then going to do is I'm going to do it down the right-hand side as well, because I kind of want the depth within the left and the right-hand side of the door. We're then going to work our way in and blend that one out. And then we're just going to come along and blend that one out. And then we can go into the middle, just here, blend them both out. So we can already see how we're starting to get that depth. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go in with that kind of like outer casing of the door. So essentially now what we're going to do is we're just going to go and we're just going to colour all the way around with that light tone and come straight down over these areas. And then what we can then do is then we can then go in with our darker tone. So the darker tone is kind of going to be on that outer casing. So if we work our way all the way round, and for this one I'm only coming in maybe a millimetre in when it comes to the dark tone. It's not much. Don't feel as though you have to really go to town on the depth of dark or mid-tone. Sometimes it's just it's a little nudge of dark colour just to create that little bit of a shadow. And we're going to blend that out. I'm actually going to come down just a little bit further down into here and blend that one out. And then we're going to go back to that light tone and we're going to blend that one out. We can see just here. What we can then do is we can then go into this last section, or two last sections here. So we're going to go with the actual base, or the back of the trunk itself. So let's go in here with the dark tone, or starting with the light tone, moving on to the dark tone. So let's work our way in. And my dark tone from the back of this trunk here is going to be on this left-hand side. So this is why I'm going to have a lot of my highlight towards the end. Let's go into our dark tone. So here, I'm going to come down to the left-hand side. I'm going to come along just a little bit, not much, but just a little bit. And then we're going to blend that out. So crossing over onto that dark tone, just a little bit light, into our layer of light. And then we can then come along and then we can then finish that one off. So let's work our way in. Once again, don't ever be afraid just to go back in and create an additional highlight. Maybe you've got the extender range of the tri-blends and you want to go in with a little bit even more of a darker red when it comes to the dark red shades. Of course, you can come along with one of the greys that we'll use in a moment. Now I need to just go into that light section here. So go in with that light section around the wheels. We're just going to then build that up. I'm just going to keep that completely light. We're then going to bring back in that darker shade. And this is one of the many things that I love about the tri-blends, colouring this image, building and shading this image, but just from the one pen. I've not had to chop and change. And this is where I like to use my tri-blends a lot with the Winter Wishes collection. So let's blend that out into the light tone. And then we'll add a few additional little highlights in a moment, but what we'll do is we'll bring in our wheels here. And this is where I'm going to go in with the brown grey blend. And for this one, keep it very, very simple. Don't ever complicate it when it comes to the tri-blends. Let's just go straight over the wheel. And with them being alcohol based here, we're going to do section by section, or wheel by wheel for this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to create that roundness of the wheel. So we're just going to go back and forwards, building up that depth. I'm going to do a little bit underneath here. And then we can then start to blend that out. So if I blend that one out and blend that one out, and then I'm just going to go in with that light tone. Very light little blend. And then we're going to do the same within the back wheel. So let's go in with that light tone again, and we're just really going to build and build and build that light tone. Saturate our cardstock. Remember, we've got our card underneath that will capture any of the bleed in. Go into that dark tone, and I'm going to do exactly the same in the same direction as the left hand wheel. We're just going to go under, creating that little light, and then we're going to go in with our mid-tone. Let's blend that together, and then we're going to go into that mid-tone. Very light blend. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along now with my ice grey blend. So this one here, as I said, it just happens to be our tri-blend brush. You can absolutely use our original tri-blends. I'm just mixing and matching a little bit. And then what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go into the mid-tone. Now with that mid-tone, we've got exactly that. We've got that lovely mid-tone of the grey. If I compare that to the dark tone, you've really got that difference. If I then come along with the light tone, there's your three different tones. So for this one, I'm going to go in with the mid-tone of our grey. And then all that I'm going to do is I'm just going to, and I'm pretty much just using the very, very tip of the brush here. And we're just going to create that little bit of a natural highlight. I'm going to do exactly the same within this wheel just here. So we're just going to create a little bit of that deep highlight. If we want to come along just underneath, we can do that there and then just do that there. I'm then going to come along just on the outer casing of the embossed detail. We're just going to use the tip of the brush, and it's as if we're sort of like sketching. So if I've got that kind of rough line, I'm absolutely fine with that because we're just wanting to get that lovely sketched effect, that sketched image. It's creating that little bit of additional highlight. I'm then just going to work my way around the outer casing of the door as well, and the wheel, the back rim, and along here. Let's create a little bit down into there. I'm just going to come along, down, and then that I am pretty happy with. I'm going to come into here, creating up that depth. Now don't forget as well, if we go back with that light tone of the grey, so that deep tone of the grey we've popped in, if you want to blend that out a little bit more, you can do that with a light tone of the red. I'm not going to do that. I'm more than happy with the way that that looks. So all that I'm doing at the moment is let's just sit that at the side, and we're going to do some die cutting when it comes to the trees. So for the trees, I'm going to come along with two of them, both of them, and we're going to go in with that gorgeous green linen cardstock. And I'm going to pop this one on into place. And then I'm going to use my low tack tape to hold it down. And what we'll do is we're going to do exactly what we've done with our trunk, and we're going to cut it and then emboss it. So let's go in with our trees. So we're going to go in with our frosted, we're going to go in with our magnetic, and we're going to go in with our top plate. We're going to run that one through here. Now, I'm going to keep this kind of natural in the embossed feel that it is, but you can come along and you can go in with your glitter glues, your glitter paste, you can go in with your glossy highlights if you want to. All of these elements that you're going to be able to use. And then what I'm going to do is what I've done beforehand. So if I turn that in on itself, we're then going to pop our mat over the top, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take away our magnetic. We're going to run this one through. Now you're going to do that a number of times. It's entirely up to yourself how many times, how full you want your card to look. So I've got some that is already done. So we'll use what I've just cut here plus the ones that I've already done. What we can also do as well is if you want to, you can go back in with your tool. Now, although we've got beautiful embossed detail, you can just see the fur coming from that tree. If you wanted to enhance it again, as I've done beforehand, you can do it. If it pops out, slot it back in like a little jigsaw, and then just follow these embossed lines. It's a good thing to do this if maybe you want to sand back some of the embossed detail. Certainly with the linen cardstock, it's really, really effective, and you're just enhancing the embossed detail that little bit more. So we've got our two sizes here of the trees. We've also then got these ones just here. So I've got a load of these that I've already cut and already embossed. So let's start to bring our card together. So with our card, I've got our card blank 5 by 6.5 here. Now what I've also got, we can just see here, it's one off the bottom here. So that is 5 by 6.5, and all that I've done is I've created my fold back that we can see. Then when it comes to this strip, just so that you know, it's 5 by 1 3/4, and I've done exactly the same. Just created a fold back. This is going to be the start of our Z fold card. And then I've got all of these layers here. Now a couple of them I've started to layer up. What I've got is this beautiful pattern paper from the collection. Now the paper is 4.5 by 6 inches, and I've given myself a very light white matten layer, and that's just a white multi-purpose cardstock. So I've layered that one into place, and then we're going to go in with that gorgeous red, this one here being that wine red linen card. I've cut that one 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and then we're just going to add our mats and layers. So if I come in with my tape runner and work our way side by side, that's then going to go into position. And when it comes to the imagery of the pattern paper, I've wanted to do it so I could keep that sleigh in sight. What I've then got is a couple of panels here. So each of these panels are 2 inches by 6. So 2 inches by 6. And I've also given myself a very light white matten layer using my guillotine. That's then going to be matten layered onto another piece of the linen, which is 2 1/4 by 6 1/4. So let's layer these ones up here. So I'm going to keep the papers kind of natural. I'm not going to add any enhanced detail such as glues or highlights, but you can do, certainly within these berries. So that's going to go into place here. And then when it comes to this little strip, I've got my mats and layers as well. So I've gone for one of the double-sided, which is giving you that woodwork with that snowfall. And I've cut that to 4 3/4 by 1.5. That's then going to go onto our linen card. So the whole lot has been pulled together when it comes to the design, when it comes to the colour. And then I've got 2 little blocks that I've got. Each of these ones here, 2 1/4 by 1.5. And I've done exactly the same, taken a little piece of my white multi-purpose, given myself a very, very fine matten layer, and then I've gone on to a piece of the linen, which is 1 3/4 by 2.5. Using my tape runner, let's then layer this one on into place. Let's bring in our card blanks now. So let's bring in these layers here. We'll add these into place, and then what we can then start to do is we can then start to build our scene with our trunk and our trees. So I'm then going to pop that one into place here and press. And then what we're going to do within these ones, these will go into the center there, trying to keep that imagery kind of flowing all the way throughout. It's not essential, but it works sometimes, certainly when you've got the beautiful scene papers included. Let's add that into there, and then we're going to go in with our last layer for our card front. That one can then go into there and press. Let's give that really good press, and there's the start, the basis of our card. This one here, we're going to go in. Now, this is where you're going to then put your little strip, the banner, the opposite way. So it's going to go like that. So let's come along now with these ones. So these strips are then going to go into place to create the workings. So let's pop that one into place here. We're then going to go in with these little panels and pop them into place here. Add that in, and then we're going to then go in with our last one, and then what we can do is we can then come along and add that one into place just here. And then I'm not going to add this one onto my card blank just yet. I'm going to get all of these bits and pieces ready to go. So let's bring in our trees here. We're then going to go in with our trunk as well. Then going to bring in, so we're going to go in with it cuddle up. And we're going to use these little stars here. So I don't want any of these elements from this dies. I only want the little stars. And for this one, what we can do, so if I pop them onto white multi-purpose, and we're going to tape this one down, we're just going to add that in. Now, when it comes to your dies like these are going to work so well with your Gemini Mini, should you have one. But when it comes to our Gemini 2, we're just going to go in with our main plate configuration. And although I'm using the junior plate, irrelevant of junior plates or the larger plates, the great thing, tiny little dies, pause it, reverse it, and then that's your die cuts done. With our pressure of the Gemini, we could do a number of layers when it comes to the white multi-purpose because they are light, delicate little stars. So you can easily do a few at once. So I've got a couple here. I'm going to do another couple in a moment. But what we can then start to do now is then start to build this whole card together. So let's set them into place here. And then we're going to go in with our little strap. Now, when it comes to our little strap, I'm going to add my tape onto the little panel, and then on this one here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of tape to the side, and you can then decide how far up that you want it. Do you want it further down, in the middle? Entirely up to you. I'm going to come maybe about a third of the way up here, and I'm just going to press that into place, and then this one, all that I'm going to do is I'm just going to come along, and then that's just going to even up at the side, press in, give it a rub, and then there is our Z Fold card ready to build up your trunk with your trees And we're going to do that with some foam pads here, because I think it really, really does help to build that depth up. For the back of the trunk, what we're going to do to start with is let's add on a little bit of our tape runner. And then we're going to have a little play when it comes to the trees. Now, don't worry about it underlapping at the moment, because we're going to snip that off. But let's start with one of the smaller trees. And then I'm just going to have that one. Let's have it kind of within the middle. I'm then going to go in with another one of the smaller trees. And if you need to add more tape, do that. Let's go in with another one just coming out to the side. And then we're going to add a little bit more tape. And then we're going to add one of the larger trees just to the back. And then we're going to press. I'm just going to pinch at the back here. I'm going to bend back, and then just using my scissors, we're just going to snip. Now, of course, you can snip before you pop them into place, but at least this way, I know what I've got, where I'm going, and then we're starting to build up our trunk. So building it up, let's go in with our foam. I'm going to add that right along the back there. And what that's also then going to do is that's going to create additional depth. So let's take the backing off. And for this, I'm going to come into here, like so of that. And then what we're going to do is let's come along within these ones. Let's add our tape. I'm going to add a little bit of tape just down the center here, because I want kind of the edges of the tree to then just be pulled up slightly. I'm just going to actually lift my initial layer just here, and then I'm just going to tuck that one under. Let's go in with another one. Let's just start to bend up the edges of the tree. That one we're going to tuck underneath as well. Let's press that one into place. And then for this one, let's add just a little bit of foam pad to the back. And then what we can do is take that off. And then I'm just going to have the base of the tree just underneath on the foam pad. And then we can then do our last couple of trees here. I'm going to do the same. So let's add a strip of tape onto these largest ones. Move to the side. I'm just going to lift my initial layer into there, press, lift, and then press. We're going to give that a nice rub down, press all that down. We're going to add a little bit of foam pad to the back, and then we're just going to peel off, holding it in. You can use glue gel if you want to, personal preference. Take that off. Let's just tuck that one underneath into there, like so. Have them at different angles as well. Nature, it's not perfect, is it? You've got them in different angles. And then a couple of strips of our white multi-purpose. You can never have too much holiday spirit and winter wishes. Stamp them out with our white multi-purpose, and we've come along and then added a little bit of our linen cardstock, lifting that on foam pads. Now with the winter wishes, I'm going to go down to the left-hand corner. Holiday spirit, I'm going to come along up to the top corner. So add that one in. And then if we peel that off, taking that backing off, give it a rub down, make sure it's nicely secure, peel the backing off, getting a hold of it. Once you get going, we're going to pop that into place. And then all that I'm going to do to secure, using my little stars, let's go in. I'm just going to do a little dot of tacky glue here. And although it's white on white, tone on tone, it works really, really well when it comes to the stars. Add another little bit down there. Add that one into there. You can go to town with the layering of the stars, but I'm going to keep it just as those little accent stars, bringing it into place. And then there we'll go. We've got our Home for the Holidays from the Winter Sparkle. That one there being that sparkly design with the trees in the background. Should you use your glitters? Should you use your glitter glues? Maybe you want to use your flakes. It's entirely up to yourself. But that's a lovely basis when it comes to the Winter Wishes Z Fold cards from Crafter's Companion. Wishes collection, you know, you can do your larger cards, you can do your projects, you can do memory books, but what you can do is lovely small apertures. We're going to be doing that when it comes to this lovely 6x6, combining many of the elements together, but making a really beautiful, understated, I would say, card when it comes to the Winter Wishes. So what we're going to do is let's come in now with our card blank. Now the card blank is a little bit smaller than 6x6. We're going for 5.5 by 5.5. And then we're going to go in with our papers in our cardstock. Now when it comes to these ones, what I have done is I've gone in the reverse side of one of the printed patterns, cut that to 5.25 by 5.25, and then I've given myself a really thin matting layer from the orange tones from that linen cardstock that's in that collection. So what we're going to do to start with is we're going to do our mats and layers. Now for this point, I always like to pop my little bit of adhesive in the middle, but for what I'm away to do now, it is key that you've got a really nice coverage of adhesive around the centre on the back, and that'll become an apparent just in a second. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to then layer that one over the top and then press. We're going to do exactly the same within this back layer of the orange linen. We're going to go all the way around, and then we're just going to make sure that we've got a lovely coverage, whether it's your tape runner, whether it's your tacky glue, that's up to yourself, but we want to make sure we've got a lovely coverage. And then we're going to go in with our card blank. I like to have a tent fold. You can turn it the traditional way if you want to, but I do like a tent fold card. And that can then go into place there. So I've given myself a really thin white matte layer border when it comes to the card blank, but I think that just accents the little snowfall in the backdrop. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to come along with one of my nesting dies. Now this happens to be from a previous set of our stitched edge nesting dies, and it's actually the third largest one that I am using. What we're going to do is we're just going to pop that straight into the middle. We're then going to open it up, and then we're going to tack that down. Now I've got my pattern paper, I've got my linen cardstock, I've got my card blank as well, but this is going to cut no problem with our Gemini. So we're going to go in, we're going to tack it on the inside, because essentially this will be the waist. Of course it won't be, I'll reuse that at another time, but I'm going to pop my tape within the middle there. I'm going to keep it with my normal plate configuration to start with, and that's base plate. It's then our frosted, magnetic and top plate. Should any fibres just catch with the amount of layers that you've got, then you can come along, recut it again, adding in your metal shim. 9 times out of 10 it's not needed, but if you do need to pop it in, it's absolutely fine, you can do that. But if I bring all this out here, if I pop that into place, and then I'm just going to lift that die to start with, now I'll be able to see, and I can feel that a couple of the layers have cut, but it's not quite gone right through. So if I start to show you there, you can see there's part of it that started to cut and part of it that's not. That's normal when you've got your 3 layers. So all that we're going to do is we're just going to pop it back in, and we're going to do exactly as I said a moment ago. Let that sit. It just sits in, slots in like a little jigsaw. Back with our plates, base plate, but this time we're going to go in with our metal shim. Always try it without the metal shim to start with, because if it's not needed, but you pop the shim in, that is unnecessary pressure on your plate. Now, although it won't harm your Gemini, all that it'll do is it'll just put more wear and tear on your plate. So you want to try and, of course, reduce if possible. But then if I bring this one back out, we're then going to then pop that one into place. So let's come along, take our tape, take that tape off here, move that, take it out, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to gently manipulate that out. It's cut, you just need to go in. Any loose fibres that you can see there as well, all that I need to do is come along with my scissors, give it a light little neaten up. But then what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be covering all this shortly anyway. There's some of the foliage. So there we've got our aperture, good to go, ready for you to decorate. So before we start to decorate, let's come in with some cardstock here. We're going to also do this beautiful pumpkin patch. Going to go in with the pumpkin patch, and I'm also going to go in with a piece of our white multi-purpose. Now you can be using your Neenah because we're going to do a little bit of alcohol colouring, but I want that extra strength and stability from the cardstock, so I'm going to be using my multi-purpose for this. And then we're going to go in with the actual wheelbarrow. So let's pop the wheelbarrow into place here. And then we are going to do the pumpkins just shortly, but let's just focus on this one to start with. And then we're going to ink up. So we're going to ink up, I'm using Noir Black. Now when it comes of course to the Winter Wishes, the rustic brown would work really, really well, and the pebble would work really, really well as well. But we are just going to use our Noir Black. Now keeping into mind what we have got is we've got the die to go with it. So I'm just going to come down a little bit within my cardstock, and then let's just press that into place. And then we've got our wheelbarrow. This is where we can then start to build as well, either masking or do a little bit of snipping. That's up to yourself. But what I've already started to do is I've already started to colour one of them in. We're going to cut them out in a moment, but what I have used within this one is I've used my gold brown shades, and then we're going to continue with a little bit of the gold brown blend and the red brown blend as well. So let's sit that one out the way for now, and then what we can do is let's bring that underneath to do a little bit of colouring. So bring in the colours that you're wanting to use. You might want to mix it up, you might want to use some different colours, but I'm going to start with these two here. So I'm going to go in with the earth brown here, and then we're going to go in with that light tone. So I'm going to go in with the light tone, and then I'm just going to work my way within the grids of the woodwork. So I'm going to start off with that light tone. So let's continue all the way around. And then we're just going to then start to build that up. So I'm going to have it so that it's going to be dark from the left and the right, and then it's going to get lighter as it comes in. Now you can follow the individual grains of wood if you want to, but I'm just going to keep it very, very simple from left and also from the right. So we're going to go in with the dark tone, in with the dark tone, building up that depth. So we're just going to work it round, smooth it out, and then we're going to go in with the light tone after we've gone in and blended with that mid-tone now. So blend that out, and then we're going to go back in with our light tone on this side, and then just start to finish that off. If you want to then come along with maybe a little bit of the dark from the red-brown blend, and then just start to accent that in right into the very edge, you can do that. If you want to come in with some of the grains as well, you can do that. But we're then going to go back into our pen once again, and we're going to do section by section. So this one, let's go in, and I'm going to have it so that it's going to be dark from the left-hand side. And what I mean by that is the left-hand side of the structural panel of this here, and blend that in. So going up with that dark, in with that dark tone, and then in with the mid. Blend it out. My go-to is always the tri-blends, but this could be on watercolour card with your waterproof ink pad, and do some of your watercolouring washes if you want to. I'm going to go in with the red-brown blend again, just to that darker tone, and I'm just going to come along, just that inner edge there, little lines there within the grains. And then when it comes to this back one here, I'm going to keep this really, really quite simple, and I'm just going to keep that quite dark. So I'm going to stick with my red-brown blend, but what we're going to do is we're just going to keep that completely dark, as if that's on that inner panel on the inside of the barrel. Plus, you're not actually going to see much of it because we'll do a little bit of tucking in. So that then is our wheelbarrow, and we're ready to cut that in a moment. What I've already done is when it comes to these pumpkin stamps, so you've got your two pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, I've then stamped them out 3 times. So I'm just going to colour one of them in. So I used the same ink pad. So I used my Noir Black and just stamped them out. And for these ones, what we're going to do is I'm going to be using my burnt orange blend. So let's come underneath here. And for this one, I'm just going to give that a scribble just to start that one off. We're then going to do sections by sections when it comes to the pumpkin. We're going to go in with that light tone. And we're just going to then build up that depth. So building it up. And then what we're going to do into the dark tone. And then for me, I find it easier to turn it upside down because we're going to come along to what it will be the right-hand side. But of course, for me, because I'm turning it upside down, it's easier to do it this way. We're just going to start in with that dark tone and we're going to blend that one out. Now with the actual pumpkin, so apart from this larger section that I'm doing just now, the other ones are quite small. So it's very forgiving to do a couple of these sections at once. So what I'm then going to do is let's just go in here with the light tone of the burnt orange. So going in with that light tone here, really starting to build that colour up. We're then going to go back in with that darker tone. I'm going to try and keep it face up for you to see. We're then just going to go in with that light tone, or that dark tone first, over the light tone, and then we're going to blend that out, blend that out. You can always come along with a little bit of the dark tone as well. Just finish that accent off at the top, and then go back in with the light tone to blend out. And then I'm going to go back in with the dark tone of the burnt orange. Because I've done a little bit of blending, I'm just going to enhance that just a tiny bit more, right onto that inner edge, just to create that little bit of curvature. What I'm also going to do in a moment, you've probably seen a sneaky wee look there at a little white highlight. I'll show you a nice quick way to do that if you've got a white gel pen. So for this one again, what I'm going to do is let's just colour the whole section in. When I'm at home and all the time in the world, I will always do section by section. However, the size of this one, you'd absolutely be able to do this in a oneer. So let's just lay down that light tone, and then I'm going to come along, and then we're just going to then go in with the dark tone. I'm going to do it so we've got that dark tone continuing all the way around to that right-hand side. So we can then come into here, blend that out into that middle section, blend, 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 and then into the light and blend out all the way around. Now once again, let's go in the tip of the tri-blend. We're going to continue that all the way around. We're then going to come along with whichever brown you want to go with. Let's just happen to go in with the actual gold brown. And then I'm just going to go in, dot that in, no blend, no shade, that's more than enough, more than adequate. And then what I'm also then going to do is you'll notice that even though we're going to die cut these out, I always still like to go around with my ice grey too. That's just if you see any white highlight left from the die cut, you've got that nice kind of light grey. Now it doesn't matter, tri-blend, classic, brush, illustrator, does not matter. It's just a nice way to create the highlight. And then if you were part of the Academy of Colour, you'll have a white pigment pen. Now this isn't the one from the Academy of Colour, but it's the same concept. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come along and I'm just going to give myself just a couple of wispy lines. That's it. Really quick, really quick, really simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And then that is our 2 lots stamped out and coloured from our, of course, we've got our pumpkins that we can come along and cut just shortly. But before we do that, let's bring in a few additional layers here that we can start to cut. And when it comes to these ones, we're going to be using our foliage dies for these ones. So these are our winter foliage. Love these ones. I'm going to be using these ones so much. We've got like our little berry sprigs here. We're then going to go in with this largest one. Now you're going to cut these out a number of times. I've got ones already good to go, but we will cut these ones. What I also want to do is I want to pull out the greens. So on the back of a piece of white multi-purpose, I've gone in with my chisel nib, with my classic pen. Now you can do any of the pens. It just so happens that I'm using my classics because we've got the bullet nib. And what I want My ones here are slightly drying out. Don't worry, this is going to add to the effect because we're going to use these tones of greens to also cut out when it comes to the foliage. So that was DG1, which was willow. I've then gone in with bamboo, which is DG2. And then I've also then gone in with camel green, DG3. And all of these we're going to do some cutting. So we can then go in with these ones here. I'm then going to go in, and then we're going to go in, and then we're going to cut. So you're not always restricted to the cardstock that you've got within your collections. Start to add your own colorways. You've got all of these color and mediums at home, so why not use them? And once finished, you would not think that this has come from a scribbled piece of cardstock. So get these all lined up, ready to go. So let's take our tape. We're just then going to tape these down so that they don't move. These are going to be lovely accent dies for the back of any of your winter flower forming. And let's go in with this last one. And then what we can bring in is our plates. So let's come in with our plates here, and then we're going to align them. We're then going to add these on, pop them into place. So with these, let's take our frosted, magnetic, and then top plate, secure, line, run through. And with this collection, when it comes to the size of the dies, what's nice is you've got the best of both worlds of just going in with your Gemini 2, of course, hitting that pause, hitting that reverse, or maybe you want to sit on the couch with your Gemini Mini and start to do the cutting. They all work together. So what we've then got is we've then got some of these that are all die cut. So we're going to pop our Poke Tool in, and then we're going to release the backing of these ones. And although these dies are lovely, nice and delicate, they're still going to go through your Centura Pearl, your glitter card if you want that bit of sparkle. So we've got one of them here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in these ones that I've got here, there, just to the side, and we'll do a little pile. I'm then going to come in with all of these foliage components, take that one out, pop the little bits out, and then I'm going to bring in these ones that I've cut here. These are great scrap busters for all of your card making. If you've got all these little bits left over in the bit box, then of course it's a great way to use them up. So you guessed it, I've got more already cut here. I'm then going to go in with our second last one, and then I've got these ones already cut here. And then let's go in and pop, take that out, sit that to the side, and then we've got these ones all good to go as well. So a lovely array of greens, and not necessarily from your collection, they're from your colour and mediums that you've already got at home. So let's set them to the side for now, because let's cut these ones out here. So we're going to go in with our dies. So when it comes to the pumpkin patch, you've got the dies to go with them. And then they're really lovely dies to use as silhouette dies if you want to. You don't have to use them in conjunction with, of course, your stamps. Now for these, because they're delicate, I would on this occasion do my stamping, cutting, and then colouring, just in case my die was to slip. But of course, I want to have a few of these pre-done ready. But that's personal preference. You can always stamp out, colour, and cut first, up to yourself. So let's go in with our wheelbarrow here and our pumpkin patch. We're just going to pop them in. Let's make that a little bit easier, and then let's cut these two together. Layer up, don't need metal shim, magnetic, frosted, that's then going to run through. So even although that we've got a lovely 5.5 by 5.5 card base, we've got some simplistic mats and layers that we're away to combine in a moment. You can really start to build. You've got a lot of creativity from your stamping, your colouring, scribbling, of course, when it comes to your classics. And then there's our outline from, of course, our wheelbarrow. So that can go there and that can go there. So let's set that there. And if I bring this one into here, because I've gone around with the grey, what we've got is a lovely little halo of grey. Instead of it being just left with white, we've got that grey, works a treat, you know, optional once again, just like everything is. So it's not essential that you do that. So we're going to go in with these last few before we start to finish our card. So let's start to build our pumpkins with the dies to go on the back of course, the wheelbarrow. We're going to add that on. Let's just do our pause and reverse. Add that in. Pause it, reverse it, or we can just let it go through. It's entirely up to yourself. As that comes through then, and when it comes to the pumpkins, the dies, when I referred to a moment ago about them being kind of like silhouette, great to do in spot background just with the aperture. You put a little bit of acetate to the back, and then you've got a silhouette affected background shaker. So there's our next two, and then last but by no means least, let's just pop them into place here. Let's then take our tape. I'm going to then pop that into place just here. And when it comes to Stampin' Dies, as we always say, Stampin' Dies, they're designed to work together. And then we always say, and I always like to say, that your stamps, of course, they work great together if you do your masking techniques, but then never take anything away from the use of the dies on their own. Some dies of pumpkin, great for the silhouette, great for doing your shakers, but what about using them as a way to do your stenciling? You can then start to, of course, ink through, and then there is the silhouette of a pumpkin that you've inked through. Water reactive, pigment, duet, going with your embossing powders. So even that itself, if I'd done that a little bit neater, there's a little pumpkin stencil that I can then ink and spritz with. So always have a look at what would be your waste or other ways that you can use your dies, and then of course get creative with. So I've got my selection here all good to go. So let's bring in our card blank. The only thing I'm going to come along and do is bring in my pattern paper that's 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and I've got that scene with, of course, that pumpkin patch going, the snowfall going, a place that would just absolutely love to go to, and that is, of course, forest with the snow and the pumpkins. Beautiful. So that's then going to go onto the back of our orange, go in with our tape, bring in our card blank. That's then going to sit into place just here. What we can then do is sit that and move that, bring in our wheelbarrow, and then I'm going to come in with my craft knife here. And all that I'm going to do is along this baseline, just into here, I'm going to give myself a cut line. Doesn't need to be neat, because we're going to do a little bit of tucking in. So I'm going to come along into there, and then just down the side, just here, making sure that we've got that really nice little tuck. And then I'm going to come in with 1 and 2 of the pumpkins, and then this is where you can have fun and tuck them in. So let's add a bit of tape, and then for this one, let's pop that there. And then that one, let's go to the front. That'll be better if it's at the front. So let's tuck that one into there and then press. I'm going to add a little bit of tape there. And then this one, we can then tuck in and then press. So we've now got our pumpkins in a wheelbarrow. How cool is that? So, so cute. So let's start to build all of this up now. So let's go in with a little bit of foam that we've got. That we're then just going to add along the base here, so it's not going to overlap within the apertures. So we're going to then peel the backing off, give it a good press, stick down, and then that's then going to go into there. Press that in. And then what I'm going to do for this one, tacky glue or any of your adhesives, I'm going to go around, I'm going to give myself a framework of my tape runner. And we're going to give a framework because then that means I can be really quite rough and organic in the positioning, of course, of all of my foliage. So let's start to go in with a couple of these ones just into here, and then we're going to work. We're building and working, framing our aperture, and then I'm not having to be too precise about it being straight. If it's giving me a kind of uneven look, it's just about getting it into position. If you want to then come along and cut little bits, you can do that. It's all about that scene building with the pumpkin patch, tucking in, and then we can come along, we can then go in with some more tape, add our tape in, holding down, either that or your tacky glue. That's up to yourself. So we're going to do a little bit of both. So let's also bring in my tape. We've gone in now with my glue, and we're just going to frame. So each time I'm kind of framing each layer. It gives me a basis of adhesive to, of course, work on. And then I'm just going to go left, right. What I'm also doing then is I'm just going to go different colors, different shades. We're just going to hold, press and hold. And by going in and creating my framework of adhesive, what it means is I get all that natural flow. What I would do, and I would be inclined to do, is once it's dry, start to lift up all the sides and the layers, of course, of all these foliage. Let's go in, alternating between a little bit of dark and light. And then let's go in with this one into place here. And then let's just add a little bit there, into there. And then to finish off, I've got all these extras that I could continue to use, but I'm just going to do a few little dots of adhesives. Let's go in with our berry sprigs and one little dot in the middle. And again, I'm wanting that movement. So a little dot, even although we've got all the detailed die cut here with the berry sprigs, it's just a tiny bit of adhesive. So we can then hold. We're then going to come in with the last couple here. Press that in, let your glue grab, down there, hold, and then to finish off, we're just going to bring in our pumpkin. So let's tack that one down, hold in, press, bring these ones into place here. So let's go in with our largest pumpkin, a little bit of glue, and hold. I'm then going to go in with a little bit of glue, and hold. And then what we can then also do is let's come along with our largest one that we've got left, lift that on a little bit of foam. That one is going to go onto the back. I'm not adding any of my own gems or pearls. I'm going to keep it as it is when it comes to this collection. So press, hold, release, tilt that to the side. And then I'm just going to come along, keep that one flat, tuck that one underneath. And then last but by no means least, let's bring in my sentiment that we've already stamped out. Hello Fall. I've gone round with a little bit of ice grey too. Add our tape on. And then what I'm going to do while closed, so I'll get the positioning just correct, press it in, just going to then hold, lift, and then there we go. We've got our aperture, our 5.5 by 5.5, set in that scene. We've got the pumpkin patch, the wheelbarrow, the pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, and then you've got the Hello Fall as well. That's just one of the cards projects that you can be making from Crafter's Companion Winter Wishes collection. Winter wishes, I don't know about you, but I think about hot chocolate, candy canes, gingerbread man, and of course that's what we're going to do, and combine it all with a big fluffy jumper and create this card here using the elements from, of course, our collection of winter wishes. So what we're going to do to start with, when it comes to the background, it may look really complicated and complex, but trust me, it's very easy, certainly when it comes to the colouring. So let's go in with a piece of our white multi-purpose cardstock. So using the multi-purpose card, and we're going to do our blending first. So let's go in with water reactive honey pot, sandstorm, and we'll etch it at the end with a little bit of our Friar Brown. Now for this one, what we're going to do is simply go over our background with our sandstorm to start with. And because of this style of card, don't worry about it being a great blend, a perfect blend. What we want is we want to get that colour onto our cardstock. I've chosen to go in with our white multi-purpose because I want that smooth feel. You can use your watercolour card if you want. However, I'm not going to be doing any water techniques. So that's how I've also gone with, of course, our white multi-purpose. So as I say, go onto your cardstock. If you get any little harsh lines, brown lines, sandstorm lines, don't worry about it. If anything, it's going to add to that warm, rustic, cosy feel. So sticking with our sandstorm just now. I'm then going to go in with our honey pot. So our honey pot, we're just going to go in, taking a little bit of the excess off onto my glass mat to start with, and then I'm just going to go into sections. So I'm just going to start that off, and then what we can then do is we can come in just with a piece of scrap card, or it could be a little bit of tissue, just with it being water reactive, you know, any of the oils or that within my finger, certainly as I start to build up that colour, that depth, the oils from my finger can then of course transition through into the background, which I don't want. So I'm just going to keep going in rustically with the honey pot. I'm not worried too much about the centre because you're not going to see the centre. And I'm going to go back in with the sandstorm. So we're going to go in with the sandstorm and we're just going to blend in that honey pot. And I say blend in, and once again I say that quite loosely. Don't worry about it being a perfect blend. The great thing with this card, how fab it looks, the concept, the layout and the design, is it's got more of that cosy rustic feel. So it's very, very forgiving in the layers. If you're not overly, you know, having that kind of, that complex feel of blending, sometimes many of you will say, that you find. So if you then just keep it simple and blend straight over the top, and then you can see here, I've got a little bit of a harsher line. I'm not worried about it. We're going to keep it going. And we're just going to then work, build, clockwise, anti-clockwise, just keep twisting and turning. I'm going to go back in with a little bit more of the honey pot, and then we're just going to add that in, dab, and then add in, twisting, and then turning. We're just going to keep building. And although I'm sticking with the honey pot, sandstorm, and then the Fryar brown, you can be really creative in the colours. You know, you might want to go completely down the route of your reds if you want to, or your greens. But I'm going to go back, chopping and changing into the sandstorm once again to blend out what we've just done. And then once you're happy with that, what we can then do is etch all the way around. And notice, if I bring in the finished sample once again, notice at this moment in time, I've not done any stamping just yet. I know sometimes you think you need to stamp before you blend, but as I said before, with this style and the colours that we use, very, very forgiving in how you can create it with absolute ease. So now that we've gone in with our two colours, let's go in with our Fryar brown and let's just etch around the edge, just pulling in that layered design. So let's just go in and etch around the side. I'm using my square blending tools. If you want to use your circles, you can do, or your little egg blenders, or if you've got your brushes, you can use them too. So let's etch that all the way round. We're then just going to come down into that second last edge, dab my ink on, finish with a nice blend on that edge, and then I'm not worried about that little finger mark there of the brown because it'll probably all be covered up. So happy with that one. Nothing to it, as you see me in front of your eyes, kept it very, very simple. What I'm then going to do is let's come in with our stamp set. Now with the stamp set that we've got, the little gingerbread man is actually coming from that full Season's Greeting sets where you've got all of these stamps. So we're just going to go in with the gingerbread man. While we're here, let's take, of course, the hot chocolate, and then we're going to start to do some stamping. So stamping matte, and then we're going to come in with our stamping platform, going with our gingerbread man, and then we're going to go in with Noir Black. So going in with Noir Black here, and because what we will be doing is we'll be using alcohol pens over the top. So I'm going to then, I'm lining it up straight, only so as a visual for me, it's easier me to follow kind of a rustic route. And what I mean by that is just going to stamp, And then each time I'm just going to reapply with another bit of ink, and then we're just going to randomly stamp, and we're going to work our way all the way around. So try and not overly complicate the layout. What I mean by that is just create a lovely little border with the gingerbread, and then do it off the page as well. You know how I'm a big fan of stamping off the page because it looks that little bit more natural, even although you're going off the page. And then we're going to continue all the way around. So we're just going to work all the way around, you know, going to the left, going to the right. It could be upside down if you want to, but we're then just going to stamp, we're going to lay, and then we're going to then re-stamp again. We're going to go into all these little nooks and crannies too, but let's just get our initial layer of our gingerbread all the way around. So let's stamp, not worrying once again about that center because we're not going to see that. So stamp in, and then at first, just go with it. Go with your design, your layout, or go with what I'm doing here, because it will come together at the end. I know something like this at first is a little bit, you know, not sure how this is starting to look, but just trust where you're going, trust the layout, and know that by the end of it, it's going to look super cool. Certainly once you've started to colour. So let's then go in little bits, even just the minute little off the page, just that little nuance just off the page there that really makes it stand out. And then we're going to go into our colouring. This is when it's really going to start to come to life, but it is so simple. And what I mean by that is we've got our white multi-purpose, we've got our 3 tones of our water reactive. But when it comes to the colours that we're going to be using, I'm going to be using my burnt orange blend. We're going to use a little bit of the dark red blend. We're going to go in with the true blue shades, but I'm only wanting that deep tone. So it's just the deep tone that I'm wanting. I'm going to go in with brown grey blend and also earth brown blend. So keeping it so simple, because what I'm also going to do is if you bring in your white gel pen from your Academy of Colour, we're going to go in now each of the gingerbread. We're going to go in with that light tone to start with, but look at this. I am covering the whole entire gingerbread. We're going to go in with the bow, we're going to go in with the mouth, we're going to go in with the eyes, the ruffles around the arms and the legs. We are colouring the whole lot. So we're going to lay that colour down. And because it's the burnt orange blend, it's that deep tone, irrelevant of the fact if you're doing light, medium and dark that we are doing, each tone is a deeper tone. So therefore, you're going to cover your honey pot and sandstorm, no problem at all. I'm going to do it so that the dark tone is down the right-hand side of the gingerbread body. So then we're going to go into that mid-tone here and blend out. So we're just going to blend that out. And even at this point, I can go over all of the little accent details. I'm just going to blend and then blend. And then we're going to go in with that mid-tone into the light tone, and then we're going to blend out. So you can already see that you're starting to get that shape, of course, from the gingerbread man. What you can then do at this point is if we go in with our dark red blend, and even if I go in with the lightest of red, the light red is strong enough that's going to overpower the honey pot and, of course, going and overpowering the sandstorm. So you've got that red. What I'm going to do is this is now where I only wanted the darkest shade of the true blue shade. If you've got your art liner, that would work, or any of your deep tones, because all it is to infill the eyes. Then we're going to come along and we're going to go in with our white gel pen. We're going to go in with our white gel pen. We're going to go in the mouth, the ruffles down the side of his arms and his legs. Look how fab that looks. How cute. Absolutely cute. And then I'm going to go in with the brown grey blend. Now usually I would go around with an ice grey too, but for this one I just want to go in with the lightest tone of our brown grey blend, and we're just going to go all the way around. As everything, this is completely optional. You don't have to do this. It's just something that I like to do, and I always bring that in to all of my demos when it comes to the outline. And it is just light. But then what you're going to do is you're going to spend a lovely amount of time, the music on, Christmas films on, TV on, and then you're going to colour the whole lot, and then we're going to look like this. So once we've gone and done exactly what I've done there when it comes to the gingerbread man, and I've just repeated that step all the way around to create that full-on background. So simple, and it's to do with the colours that we've gone for. It's overpowering that background, and it enables you to not have to worry about blending and colouring all around that inky background, and that just stands out an absolute treat. So then what we can do is let's go in with another piece of our white multi-purpose, and this is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. We're going to go in with that knitted jumper when it comes to that stencil. Fab stencil, really fun one that I feel I'm going to be using quite a lot. And I want to stabilise my cardstock because I actually want my stencil to be straight when it comes to the design. So I'm going to lay it up so it's kind of like symmetrical, and then we're going to go in with our low tack tape, and I'm just going to then tape that down top and bottom. We're going to come back in with our ink pads once again. So we're going to use the same ones. So let's go in with our Sandstorm, and then we're going to ink that over the top. And then I'm still going to give it a helping hand by holding down with my hand, but because I've taped it to my glass mat, that's going to hold it. And then when it comes to my stencil, that is of course being held down with my low tack tape. So I'm going to go over the top here with the detail. Now you can ink the full background first, or you can do what I'm doing, and that'll become apparent just in a moment. I'm going to then go in with the honey pot, bring in the honey pot, and then I'm just going to layer that over the top. So repeating the layers that I've done with my background, and we're just transitioning what's on the background to the front, and then we're going to go in with a little bit of the Friar Brown. That's then going to lift over the top. And when it comes to colours, even the lighter tones of dark colours with stencil, sometimes you think, oh, I can't really see it, there's nothing coming through. It's not until you start to lift, and then we've got that cool knitted jumper. Love it. I'm going to be using it so much, so much. But what I want, I actually don't want the white, I want that to be coloured. Now this is what I meant a moment ago. I'm just going to go in with the Sandstorm right over the back. You could do the Sandstorm first, then layer the design, or do it this way. There's no right or wrong way, whichever way that you want to build that layer. And then we're going to go in with the Sandstorm, and we're just going to go over the top. The Friar Brown is strong enough to hold its own, even when we come over the top with the Sandstorm. We're going to come on over the top with a little bit of our honey pot, and the actual Friar Brown is still going to be strong enough to hold its own there. We're then going to come in now with the honey pot. Let's bring in our blending tool with our honey pot. I'm only going to go around the edges here, just tickling on the edge of our card, adding that in, being quite rustic. And then if you want it to come along, if you want it to overlay again and even do things like little drop shadows, you can do that. So it's positioning back into place, but then what it's doing is it's just offsetting it ever so slightly. And all that I'm doing is I'm blending the residual ink that I've already got. I'm not adding any more. It's going to be very light, very subtle, but it's enough just to create that little bit of 3D depth. Now what we can start to do is we can then start to assemble our card. So we've got all of these main components here, and then I've also got some of my mats and layers all good to go. So let's bring this one in. Bringing in my card blank, 6 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I've added a piece of my own white multi-purpose. Now our actual stamp background is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So I've given myself a really, really, really thin white matting layer. And the reason being is that's pulling out all that white work from the gingerbread man. We're then going to go in to our linen cardstock. We're going to go in with that gorgeous ruby red sort of feel, that wine even colour from the linen. And I've just got it out the centre there, just not to waste some of it. And that, within here, I've actually used within my next layer that I'm away to show you. Let's pop that on, press, and then use your tape, choice of adhesive, all the way around, add it on, bring it in, just make sure card blank's the right way. I'm going to go for a 10-fold card, position into place, hold that in, and then we're going to build up a couple of these layers here. So I've gone in for one of the pattern papers and cut that one down to 3.5 by 3.5. And as you can see from my white layer, I've given myself a really, really thin white layer. If you're not comfortable doing that, go around the edge with maybe your white pigment ink pad or a white embossing powder or even your white gel pen. That's a good way of doing it as well. I use my guillotine for the little layer. That's going to go onto our red linen. Press that in. This is then, for this one, it's going to go flat onto my card blank. So let's bring that in to here. And this is what I mean about don't worry about the centre because you're not going to see it. And then we're going to get that in straight. Because I've used my white multi-purpose, what I've got is I've got 300 GSM strength and stability. So this is going to stand alone, all on its own, without the need of any additional mats and layers. So let's go in with our larger foam pads. These ones are 4mm in depth, so we're going to get real good depth of detail. That's going to go into the middle, still seeing that pattern paper all the way round. And then what we can then start to do is we finish off. Let's just bring in another little piece of our white multi-purpose Stampin' Mat. We're then going to go in with our Noir Black and then stick in with our gingerbread man. We can then stamp him out and then position and press. Now there's no dies for these ones, so you will just need to do a little bit of fussy cutting. We're going to go in with the hot chocolate as well. Pop that into place, ink up, and then we're going to then do some stamping, pressing, remove that out of the way, and then we've got our gingerbread man and we've got our hot chocolate. Now for these ones, what I've done, how cute does this look here? So we've just gone in with our deep red. We've also then gone in with a little bit of our earth brown for the chocolate. And then for the natural little highlights, I've just gone in with the brown grey blend. Fussy cut that one out. And same with our gingerbread man. I coloured him in exactly the same as I done within our base layer. Now it's about building. So we've got Let's Get, stamped that one out. I know it doesn't look straight, don't worry, you're not going to see it. It's going to be like a little tag. And then we've got Comfy and. Let's Get, Comfy and, what do we need? Cozy. We need cozy. Let's Get Cozy, and then we'll have Comfy and Cozy. And then bringing in these little die cut stars, which has come from the Cuddle Up. A couple of little stars, white multi-purpose, a white linen would work, or maybe your Centura Pearl, bringing in what you've got within your stash. So then position all of these as and where you want them to go. So the cozy, I've just gone along and I've die cut that one into our white. So I've done that with the white and I've done it with the black and created that little bit of a drop shadow. So if I bring in a little bit of black to show you how that looks once cut. And I think this is going to be nice, cozy, when you come in with maybe your baby cards, you know, if you want to then incorporate the word cozy onto a bundle of joy, you can absolutely do that. It doesn't just have to be for your winter wishes. So we're going to then pop that one on. We're going to do our frosted magnetic top plate. Another one that will work perfectly with your Gemini Mini, but of course when it comes to the Gemini 2, we can then just let that go through, we can do pause, we can do reverse, using the junior plates, but it's exactly the same if you're using your larger plates, pause and reverse, even for something as small and delicate. Then we've then got that cozy. So pop that out in the release hole. They've all got their own little release hole, and then there is your cozy. So we've got the cozy, and I tell you what, let's show you how you can do your drop shadow. Let's do your drop shadow. We're just going to repeat that step there within our white cardstock. So let's pop that one on. And the black really, really makes it stand out. We've got our black outline when it comes to our stamp designs. So therefore, just having that little subtle black on that backdrop from the cozy, of course, it just makes it stand out that little bit more. And then the Let's Get and Comfy and, they've come from the stamp set that comes with this cozy die as well. So what we can then do is move it out the way. We're then just going to then pop that out, and then we've got our cozy within the white. Bring in, for my choice is always going to be the tacky glue for this. You can absolutely use your dotty tape runner if you so wish, but what I'll do is a little bit of contrast. Let's bring in the back of our purple mat just to make it a little bit easier for you to see. So we're going to go in with our two dies. So we've got cozy in white and we've got black. So we're going to then position the white over the black. Now I'm going to go over the back with a little bit of the tacky glue. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to sketch all the way around. We're just going to sketch that in all the way till we've got a nice coverage. Then what I like to do is I like to try and, as close as I can, hover directly over the top, and then I pull ever so slightly down to the bottom right-hand corner. Now you can do it in any direction. It's just the way that I like to go. And then I'm going to hold, press. With the tacky glue, it means I can then come along, lift, and then position and slide into place. So you can have a chunkier black line if you want. You can have a real subtle outline of the black if you want. You've got that choice. You've got that versatility. Moving with the tacky glue, holding it into place. Once you're happy, just pinch, hold, let it grab, and then we've got our drop shadow. So that I can then pop all out of the way. I'll use the one that I've already done here, and then let's start to build and complete our card. So what we can do is bring in our little sentiments here. So we're going to go comfy and then we're going to get Let's Get. These are going to stay flat, and then we're just going to then add our tape to the back. So for your Let's Get, what we're going to do is, because I've not pressed too hard, purposely I've not pressed too hard up here, it means I can come along and tuck that one under. And that's why I was saying don't worry as well about the base not being overly neat. You don't have to have it neat because you're not going to see it. And then I'm going to do the same at this side. So I'm just going to lift. We're going to take the comfy and add our tape. Keeping flat, because we're keeping it flat in line with our card blank. Lift it up, tuck it under, and it's like a little tag for what you get on clothing or something like that. And it's just a nice little cute wee feature. Press in, and then we're going to go in with our cozy. So our cozy, we're going to overlay at that bottom corner. So you've got Let's Get Cozy, and then you've got Comfy and Cozy. Using my tacky glue. Tacky glue, always my preference. Your dotty tape runner will do the job just perfectly, or maybe you've got your sprays or adhesive sheets, but by keeping it simple with the tacky glue, we're going to attach off the bottom left-hand side, hold, let that grab. We're then going to come in with our gingerbread man, we're going to come along with our hot chocolate, we're going to come on with our foam pads and scissors. We're just going to chop a couple up. We're then going to add one to the gingerbread man, to the back. We're going to add one to the back of the hot chocolate. And what I'm also going to do is this layer, because this has just been done, it is still, technically it's still what we would say, it's still damp. It's water reactive ink pad. So it's still got that little bit of dampness from the ink. So if I put my foam pad straight over the top of my ink layer, there's a chance it could pop off. So therefore I'm going to put a tiny little layer, little dot of my tacky glue. Now you can absolutely just use your glue gel. Absolutely, that will do the job. If you know me, you know I love my foam pads. They're always my go-to. So therefore, I'll still use my foam pads, but I'll pop my little bit of tacky glue underneath. The glue then dries into the foam pads and it dries into the layer of your ink background, making it so strong and sturdy and stable. And then all we need to do, talking about our tacky glue, let's do dot, 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 and I'm going to go in with my pokey tool and I'm going to pop the tip of my pokey tool into a little bit of the glue, and then I'm going to pick up one of the stars and then position, and then I might get another one out of there, and then I'll get another one here, move, press, and then I'm going to come down to this bottom corner and do the same. I'm going to do dot, dot, dot. And the whole purpose with this card, don't worry about overlapping. Don't worry about overlapping your gingerbread man. Don't worry about overlapping when it comes to things such as your ink backgrounds or your mats and layers. It all adds to that layout. Press that in. Final one. Your tacky glue, of course, will dry completely clear. But there we go. Let's get cozy, comfy and cozy. Beautiful layered card using many of the elements combined together with water reactive tri-blend alcohols, and that's just one of the projects that you can be making from your Winter Wishes collection from Crafter's Companion. Winter Wishes collection, whether you're going to go smaller cards, larger cards, boxes, it's all about scene building within that project. For this one, we're going to build our scene within this beautiful 5x7 card. We're going to layer up, but we're going to do a little bit of distressing as well when it comes to the backdrop. So let's get started. So what we're going to need to start with is our embossing folder. So we've got our 4x6 embossing folder, perfectly plaid, and that's exactly what it is. Now we're going to come along. For this one, I'm going to bring in a little bit of our watercolour cardstock. Now we don't need much of it, and it is 3x4 1/4. We're also going to do a little bit of blending with the greens. So I'm using our water reactive ink pads, and I'm going to go in with our grasshopper, and we're going to go in with a little bit of depth when it comes to the pine tree. So you can absolutely either emboss and distress afterwards, or distress with your ink and then emboss, and that's exactly what I'm going to do first. We're going to go in with our colour and we're going to lay down that grasshopper. Now because we're going on to watercolour cardstock, because we're going to be doing a little bit of faux bleaching with our water spritz, we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be perfect about the lay down of colour. We don't even need to be perfect about getting any of our fingerprint oils onto the cardstock. All of that's going to be eliminated by the time that we've then spritzed with our water and then we've gone in with our embossing folder. So we're just going to go in, we're going to cover the whole lot, but I'm not going to go overly strong within the centre. I still want to kind of have that framework within that grasshopper. We're just going to keep going all the way around, finishing off with a deep, deep layer of that grasshopper on the end. And then what we're going to do is we're then going to enhance that with the pine tree, but only a little bit, not too much. We're just going to then nip that into the edge just here, and I'm just running back and forwards, creating that natural sort of highlight or matting layer. We're then going to then bring that in, each layer, each side, tapping on a little bit of excess pine tree, and then that is all that we're going to do. I'm just going to bring in that blending tool again. I've not popped any excess ink on. What I'm doing is I'm just going to blend that grasshopper into the pine tree. So we've got that lovely little framework all the way around. We've got that natural feel, that rustic feel, which is really going to be enhanced with our water spritz. And that's what we're going to use. So I've got my Spectrum Noir water spritz, and then you can then either go direct straight on. Now, the closer you go, the more of the bigger the bubble puddles you're going to get. The further away, the more of the mist. What I like to do is I like to just spritz into my hand, and then I'll flick. This has given me, for me, a little bit of a mix of the bigger circulars of water, and then you're getting little flicks of little mist. Now, the longer you leave that, the more that it's going to what we call faux bleach. So it's kind of like a faux bleach effect. It's giving you a bleached effect, but of course with water. So I'm going to let that continue to do its thing for a little bit longer. I'm just going to sit that to the side for now. And then as that does a little bit more of the faux bleaching, I'll just sit it just there. So while we're doing just a little bit more, you'll start to see how it really starts to intensify. I'm then going to go in with a piece of our white multi-purpose cardstock, and for that one we're then going to come along with our Snow Much Fun. So we've got our sledge and we've got our little mittens, really cute ones. These are going to be really cute for new babies at Christmas time, maybe a new baby card, go in with the pinks or the blues, or if you don't know the sex of the baby, if it hasn't been born, then maybe like an ivory or a yellow. But we're going to layer that one onto our plates, frosted magnetic top plate, and then we're going to then run that one through. And we're going to use that outline die as a form of an image to colour. And we're going to use that with our tri-blends. Before we go any further, I'm going to sit that there. I'm just going to take a little bit kitchen roll, it could be some tissue, and I want to stop more of that activating. I want to stop that now. So we're going to then just hold our kitchen roll over the top, taking away any excess, and then look at that. It's kind of like our snowfall effect when it comes to that one. Leave it longer or spritz even more. It's really going to be strong and intensified. I like that. It's really nice. If you wanted to add more at this stage, you can absolutely do that. So it's very forgiving in the amount of times that you do start to then do that faux bleaching. So I'm not going to emboss at the moment. I'm just going to let what's in there when it comes to the water content just dry out just a little bit more. You can heat set it, but just by the time that I come along and do these bits, it'll be nice and dry and ready to emboss. So we're going to take our sledge and we're going to take our mittens. Let's then bring our pokey tool, and then we can then pop these ones out. So we're going to pop that out into place. Now you've not got any stamps with these ones. These are just your dies, but we're going to use that as an outline to colour. Colours we're using, we're going to go in with the dark red blend. We're also then going to go in with the earth brown blend. So the dark red we're going to use for the mitts. Then we're going to go in with the sledge. That's going to be the earth brown blend. We're going to do a very light bit of the true blue shades. And then I've also got a little bit of the ice grey blend. Mixing and matching, you can use all tri-blends or all your tri-blend brushes. That's up to you. If you've got a couple of different mediums, it's a nice way to then just mix and match and incorporate the different colour and mediums that you've got. I'm going to bring in a piece of cardstock to do a little bit of colouring, and these are, although these are relatively small, they're very easy to colour. So what I'm going to do, make it a little bit more better on the eye for you to see. Let's do that on a bit of black. So I'm going to go in with the dark red blend, and I'm just going to then hold down, because even when it comes to, of course, the string that's holding the mittens together, very delicate. So I'm just going to hold down with my finger, and I'm going to go and I'm going to lay down that light tone of the red. So we're just going to colour the whole lot, and I'm going to do a mitten at a time. So I'm just going to then lay that down. Even if you just keep that as one tone, look how smooth that layer of colour on that card is. But what I want is I'm then just going to go in with the dark tone of the red to the left-hand side. So I'm just going to come down to the left-hand side. I'm also going to have it so that it's towards the opposite side. So we're going to go left and right with the dark tone. I'm then going to blend both of these together. So blend that one in, and then that one in, and then we're just going to go into the middle again with that light tone, blend that out. We're going to let that evaporate that little bit more, the alcohol, but I'm just going to touch up the very, very edge back in with that dark red blend, just a natural little highlight touch, and you're starting to see that curvature when it comes to the mittens. We're going to do the same with the other one. So let's lay that colour down with that light tone, lay that in. If you come along with your white multi-purpose card that I'm using, a great one for structure when it comes to colouring with. You can still do it onto your Neenah, of course, but it's all about that extra thickness when it comes to the buildability within your cards and your projects, that a good one to colour is your multi-purpose. But if you use your watercolour card, then of course come in with your aqua pens, come in with your washes, maybe your sparkle pens, giving you that lovely bit of sparkle. We're then going to blend that out into place, and then we're going to go into the middle and blend that one out. And then when it comes to the string, the ribbon that's holding it together, just going to go in with that mid-tone and just colour that in, and there we go. So that's one done, and then set that to the side. Let's come in with our sleigh here. Another one where we're just keeping it simple when it comes to the layering of the colouring, and we're going to go in with the ice grey to start with. So I'm going to go into the base parts where you've got the sledge at the bottom, and all of this, what I'm going to do is go in with the grey. So this is the ice grey. I'm just going to go colour all of these in, giving me a metal look. So let's lay that on. And then I'm going to go along, and then underneath these little bits, I'm just going to come along and create little highlights. So pop that onto the white one so you can see a bit better, creating that little highlight as I go all the way along, working it now. Of course, I'm going on to the cardstock underneath, but you can see here the way that I'm going, the direction that I'm going. So following along, underneath, and then even just along here, just creating that little bit of that highlight. Going to go in round the side here. I am going to do a little bit of blending, so I'm just going to go in with that mid-tone, just blend it out ever so slightly, just a little, not a lot, just a little. I don't want it to be overly strong in grey. I just want to have that little bit of kind of like accent blend. And then I'm going to go in with that mid-tone again. Well, I'm going to go in with the light tone now after that mid-tone and blend that out. I'm just going to go completely over that full coloured layer, because I want to then just dull down that dark and that light a little bit more. And then we'll start to get that shape when it comes to the base, of course, of our sledge. Then we're going to go along with our browns. We're going to go in with the earth brown blend. So with this one, keeping this one very, very simple as well, we're going to go in with the light tone of the earth brown blend, and I'm going to come into the left hand side and the right hand side. So we're going to colour that in, creating that little bit of a natural highlight within the middle, and then we're going to go into the opposite side of that dark tone, and we're just going to then come along with the dark tone of the brown into that left hand side as well, lay that colour, flip to the middle, blend that out, cross over just into that dark tone and no more that we've laid down, blend that into the base of the light tone that we've done, and then we can then connect these two back again with that light tone. And then if you want to come along back in with that darker tone, just create a little bit extra shade, and then we can start to see as that starts to come together. To finish off, I'm just going to go in with a little white gel pen, either from your Academy of Colour, just a couple of wispy lines. That's it. How quick was that? But really, really effective to kind of get that icicle look when it comes to your actual sledge. And then there is our sledge, and then there is our mittens from the die. So no stamps with these ones, just dies, but you can still build up that depth of blend when it comes to your water base, or of course when it comes to your alcohol pens. So let's go back now into our background that we created with our grasshopper and our pine tree. Bringing in the embossing folder. Now it's a 2D embossing folder, so we're just going to change the plate configuration ever so slightly in a moment. Now this side here, this has given me the raised detail, so this is standing up. The good thing with something like a plaid effect, you really can use it either way. There's no such thing really as an emboss and a deboss side. But if anything, I'm going to lay it onto the clear side, and then you can either go at a little bit of an angle, or if you want to keep it completely straight, you can do, and that's what I'm going to do just here. Close that over, and then with our 2D embossing folders, we usually say it's our 2 cutting plates, which that's what they are as standard, but I always like to add in my metal shim just as an extra little bit of push detail within the folder. That's then going to go through our Gemini, we're going to go through our G2. That's then going to take the cardstock that we've inked and done that bit of faux bleaching, giving us that plaid effect, and then you're going to get that lovely raised touchy-feely. But then what about coming back in with your pine tree? And I'm going to try and make this as flat and smooth as I possibly can. I'm going to go in with a little bit of pine tree, and then I'm going to keep this as relatively flat as I can. And then what we're doing is we're just touching the top layer of the embossed plaid design. So we're touching each of the edges, no more, no blend, no nothing. We're just highlighting, tickling the top of the card to enhance that plaid detail. What we've then got is we've got all of these layers that are ready to go. So that layer that we've embossed was 3 by 4 1/4. So I've used some of the linen cardstock that comes in the collection, and we're going to then mat and layer that over the top. This is dry enough now for me to come along, start to layer and assemble. We're then going to pop that into place, set that out of the way for now, and then I'm going to come in with my card blank. So I've taken one of the many beautiful pattern papers. This is giving you kind of like the jumper, the cozy jumper effect in the background, the foliage, the berries, the baubles or the ornaments, and we're going to layer that on to our green linen card. Notice as well, I've got my cardstock because this layer that I've taken from the center, we're then going to be using within our mid layer. So that's then going to go all the way around onto our card blank. Bringing the card blank in, 5 by 7, but I've created a top fold or a tent fold. Pop that into place there. Keeping my white framework from a card blank, that works really well with this Winter Wishes because you've got all of the snowfall, that white work. So using that natural card blank as a form of framing works a treat. Another piece of pattern paper. These are all double-sided, remember, so you choose which ones that you want. 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. What we're taking within this one is another piece of the green linen, which was actually the layer that came in from the center. And then I've just neatened it up and done my mats and layers. This is absolutely a Christmas jumper waiting to be worn, this design here, and nothing stopping you from embossing with your embossing folder onto the pattern paper as well, giving you extra tactile when it comes to the feel of your cards. Framing up our work, so I've brought in a piece of our white multi-purpose, giving myself a very light white frame, and then that's really going to make it stand out when it comes to the main focal element of your card. So this is all about building the background to start with. That's then going to go flat into position. I'm going to come along with this layer here. This one we are going to go in with foam pads. We're going to pop our foam pads onto the back here. So height, dimension, we've got the texture as well. We've got everything going on when it comes to this card here. This is one of those cards that you're going to go for someone really special within the family, or maybe your dad or your uncle or your granddad. If you struggle for the mail cards at Christmas, this is going to be the perfect one. And then if I bring these in here, what we're doing is I'm going to come along with some of the green linen cardstock. I'm going to come along with some of that red, and then we're going to come in with our winter foliage dyes. We're going to do a little bit of die cutting when it comes to the foliage. The berries, we're going to go in with the red, and then we're going to then pop these onto our plate, and we're going to die cut these. Secure them with our low tack tape. So we're just going to hold that into place. We're going to take the red, we're going to do the same again. We're just going to secure them into place. Bring in our plates. We're going to go in frosted, magnetic, and then top plate. Line up so they're all nicely aligned underneath the plate configuration. We're going to go through. As I said previous, you can do pause, you can do the reverse, but for all the time that it takes to go all the way through, if you're using the junior plates, if you're using your A4 plates, well, 13.5 seconds, so it's no time at all, but you've still got that pause and reverse feature. So we're going to pop these ones out. So I've got a number of these already cut and good to go, but we'll come along and we'll do our trees as well in a moment. So if we go in with these ones, pop out, and then if I bring in a couple of these, now I'm not necessarily going to need them all, but it's good to have a little selection already good to go. We're then bringing in our berries. So bring in our berry sprig. We're just going to go in with the release holes, carefully pop out because they're really nice and delicate. And then I'm going to come along with these ones. And then what I've also done, if I bring in a piece of our white multi-purpose, bringing back in either your pine tree or going in with your grasshopper, you can then take a little slither. You don't need much at all, depending on how much of the foliage you want to cut. And then I'm going to go in with my blending tool, go in with a grasshopper, and we're just going to then lay that colour down. Now, I'm not saying blend that colour because I don't mind if I get harsh lines like this. Doesn't need to be smooth, doesn't need to be blended, because what we can then do is if we come in with another one of those dyes, let's bring in a couple of these other ones, and we're now going to be using our ink pads as a basis to die cut into. So you're not restricted to only using the green linen within, of course, the Winter Wishes collection. You can be using your water reactives, you could be using your pigments, you could be using your duets, you could be using your classiques, your tri-blends, any medium that you can cut into. So don't just think you have to cut into your linen cardstock or cut into your pattern paper. Look at the colour and mediums that you've got at home and start to cut into them as well. We're going to pop that out, bring in our pokey tool in, pop that one out, and now we've got our foliage within the grasshopper that's going to tie in with this back layer, and no one would have thought that that's come from a water-based ink pad. If anything, it's come from a smooth cardstock. So we can then pop that one out, and then if I just bring in a few that I'd already done here as well, and all I've done at this point, as everything, totally optional, but if you want it to come in with a deeper green, this one being the pine tree again, and just dab the end if you want. Nothing natural, nothing organic, just get in there, lay that colour down, and that's the elements ready to build. Last thing we need to cut is within our green card, we're going to come in with our Christmas trees. Now we're going to go in with the tree duo, the fir tree duo, cut them in, lay them on, tape it down. Now, of course, you could be more sparing with your cardstock. This won't go to waste. I'll reuse that another time, but to save chopping it up for now, let's cut into it. And even then, if you then, actually, let's just do that as I cut. Now, I know my cardstock's not overly straight, but let's just say that we've got our layer. I'm going to turn that around so you can understand where I'm going with this one. We can then start to create our fir tree shaker layer. So if I take that into there, now I'm going to be using the components that are die cut, but this is just a nice visual that if you've got any of your waste layers, what you can do is either ink through them, spritz through them, or use them as a form to do as a shaker. So if I bring the plates out now, and then move all that out the way, so carefully prise that off here. So let's carefully get that one off into there. Now I'm going to be using these trees, But that there, acetate at the back, vellum at the back, that could be a lovely fir tree shaker card front that you've got, or of course ink through it, spritz through it. So you've got multiple uses in what would be the waste. That won't go to waste though, we'll use that again. So let's bring in our tree here. For this has got embossed detail in the tree. Now I don't always do the embossed detail, it's purely on the project. That being said, because of the power of the Gemini, you get some of that embossed detail already pushed through by one layer through of the die cut. So it's optional with the embosser mat. It will help and it will enhance the embossed detail, but it's not always needed. That's our two trees. Last but by no means least, I've gone and I've stamped out Winter Blessings. So I've done the same form of background as I've done within this layer here, and then just stamped my sentiment and then layered with my cardstock. Ready to decorate. So let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. Let's start to build, start to layer, set that scene, bringing in a couple of foam pads here, going in with the sentiment. We're going in with our sentiment onto the left-hand side, so it's going to go there. We're going to go in with our sledge. Let's take a little slither of foam pad, because all that I'm wanting is that pad, that depth, to be at the top. So position that there. So before I go in with my sentiment, what we're going to do is position this into place. Now my layer is still technically a little bit wet with my ink, so therefore I'm going to go in with my tacky glue. Glue gel would work, an absolute treat, that'll work so well. I love my foam pads, I'll stick with my foam pads, so therefore let's go in with our tacky glue. What that does is that dries into the back of the foam pad, but it also dries through into the layer of cardstock that's got that layer of water-based ink, and therefore it's going to make it really strong, sturdy, and essentially it's going to make it like cement onto your cardstock. It's that strong. Do the same with our sentiment, give it a nice little layer of the tacky glue. We're then just going to then position that here for now. And then we can then bring in all of these layers here. So I'm going to go in with the tree, and I'm not necessarily wanting them to be tucking underneath the sentiment, because what we're doing is we're going to come in with the foliage, the berries, and start to build up that distressed background with those die cut elements. Press them in, hold that for a second. I'm going to come along here with my woolen mitts and tape that in. So tape it, glue it in, up to yourself, but that's just going to sit nicely into here. I'm going to keep the string of the mitts just kind of free flowing in midair. Hold that nice secure, then we can start to build. Now at this point, I would recommend a glue gel when it comes to anything that you're starting to build in one area. So taking our glue gel here, either using your syringe that you'll get, or of course I'm just going to use my Poke Tool, and we're just going to start to layer. So I'm going to put a little layer underneath. Don't worry about seeing your glue gel just now, because you won't by the end of it. Popping a little layer. I like to do little sections of glue gel at once and then tuck in. I'm not a big fan of putting glue gel on the back of each individual sprig. It's a little bit time consuming, and for this way, it just means that you've got more movement when it comes to the flexibility of all of these layers. So now what I can do is come along, and then I'm going to go in with my greens, I'm going to go in with my grasshopper foliage die cuts. We're going to use our Poke Tool. That's then going to enable us to pop in, move, bring in the berry sprigs, overlay that one. So we're just going to position, and we're using the glue that's already there to be held into place. We don't need any more, not at this moment in time. There's more than enough to hold it down at the base. We're just going to bunch it up, and then we're going to come to this opposite side. You don't have to keep them in the full length either. If you want to snip them up, you can do that. So if I snip these ones here, and then tuck in, can come along underneath, tuck in. We're going to go at the base, and we're just going to keep tucking in. Then we're going to go in with the berry sprigs. That's then going to overlay into here. Position that one in. Use your Poke Tool as a way to guide. Poke Tool or your tweezers, both of which are a good way to guide in. We're guiding it in, pushing it in, and then what we've got is we've then got our lovely sprigged layer. Let's add one more, so it's just popping out to the side into here. That for me is really, really pleasing on the eye. I'm not going to add any of these bits. I can use these again, but what I am going to do, and I've already cut these ones out, and it's some little white stars. Now these white stars, these have come from the cuddled up Stampin' Die set there, and we're just lifting up that white snowflake work right in the background, and I'm going to go dot, 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 and against that green, what's going to happen is you're really going to elevate the white snowflake against the background, the white stars against the background, and then of course it's then lifting all of this foliage. That little bit of white just pulls it up from the snowflakes, the stars, as well as that backdrop. I'm then going to come dot, dot, dot. So we're traveling the stars all the way up. Going to pick up, and then we're going to go in that last one. We're going to go into position just here. And seeing as I've got one, let's just add one. So I've got a larger snowflake underneath the bottom here. So if I bring in, you can just see here, we've got the larger snowflakes that are then just starting to transition all the way up. So you've got the stars going up, you've got your snowflakes coming round, in actual fact you've got your snowflakes down here as well. Last star though, into place. So this is one of those cards, the more that you start to look at it, the more you start to see the flow, the layout from the background and the snowflakes, bringing into the stars, traveling from the bottom corner up to the top corner, giving you that depth, giving you that buildability, which it's all about. And then there we go. Beautiful card, layer card with all of the greens, the cozy, the warm jumpers with the Santa's sleigh. You could be sleighing in the snow time. But that is one of the projects, the cards that you can be making from Winter Wishes from Crafters Companion.